Transportation Committee to order. Thank everybody for coming, and let's just begin this meeting with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to ask members of the committee if they would entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add a financial participation agreement between the SCDOT and the city in the amount of $245,680 for the completion of the Morrison Drive median safety project. That project is moving apace. If we don't move this on, we're going to lose some opportunities to get it done on time. It's going to cost us money. So the exigent circumstances is safety and the fact that this actually needs to get done now. If not, we'll be 6 weeks down the road. So if I can entertain that motion, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move this to item number 6 after the enforcement officer. That's everybody okay? Councilmember Gregg, welcome. Okay. All right. First item on our agenda is approval of minutes from August 19th, 2025. Got a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, discussion on the Transportation Sales Tax Initiative. For purposes of this meeting, we'll call it the TST to keep it short. I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Cox.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to pull up a PowerPoint. And before we get started, just want to put out a disclaimer here that this is draft form. This is something for discussion. We'll talk about potential next steps at the end. And if you would, just let me run through this so that you can kind of get our thoughts out, and then happy to answer any questions that you all might have. But the reason why this is coming up now is this is something that the county provided to us about a week or so ago, 10 days ago, with regards to what their potential schedule is for rolling out the 2026 TST. And what they're looking for from the municipalities is what are targeted corridors or projects, and how we would like to see funding spent in our respective municipalities. So you can see here, it's a pretty tight timeline. They want to have that. They've asked us for a version of a list, or at least an initial draft, for a meeting they have on Thursday of this week. So that's going to be a little bit tough, but did want to at least put some ideas in front of you all, the T&T committee, for consideration as we evolve into a more defined list by the end of October, which is when they want it by. And that's so that they can, I think, run models and vet this from a regional perspective. And I do want to just point out that the county has been great to work with on this effort. This I truly see as a collaborative effort and approach. We need to make sure that we don't start drawing sandboxes here, because I firmly believe that what's good for North Charleston is good for the city of Charleston. What's good for the city of Charleston is good for Mount Pleasant. And what's good for all the municipalities is good for the county, and vice versa. So anyway, that's why we are here on this topic tonight. Want to give a real shout out to staff. This is not coming out of the blue. We have actually been diving into regional planning, citywide planning, for over a year now. That includes traffic improvements along major corridors. That includes bike ped improvements. It includes potential greenbelt opportunities. It includes infrastructure as it relates to flooding on roadways, kind of all across the board. And this is something that has been, again, very holistic from the city staff, all hands on deck. And we've actually also worked closely with planning from North Charleston, from the county. Chairman Middleton's been part of these conversations and this dialogue for probably about 8 to 10 months now. So it's not coming out of the blue. So as a baseline, I figured we would just start from what the county was originally contemplating back in 24. And this was the spending chart that they had set up on the 24 TST, and they estimated at that time it would be approximately $5.4 billion. a huge line item in that was, of course, 526, which is no longer part of the conversation. That project, as we are all aware, has died and gone to heaven. But the silver lining on it, and again, as somebody that did support 526, I'm willing to accept reality. But the silver lining is it does free up some potential funding for other projects. So this is how they had it broken down. When you take away 526, let me just show you here. You can see the orange pie shape, which was $811 million. That was what was available for road projects, excluding 526. And when you look at what those 20 other road projects were across the county, it was approximately $2.4 billion or $2.3 billion based on the 24 estimates. But so in terms of looking at where we should start from, I was going to use this, right? These were priority projects in 24. Not much has changed, except things have gotten worse. I think we can all agree. And one of the interesting things I found about this was when you add them up between North Charleston, Charleston, and Mount Pleasant road projects, it almost exactly broke down to the pro rata share of population. So it was equitably distributed. And not that that's a fail-safe or something that you have to stick to, but you know, if you're a resident of Mount Pleasant and you don't feel like you're getting a reasonable share of the taxes that you're paying, that can run into a political issue. So I'm not sure if this was done by design back in the day or not, but interestingly, it does generally break down to population of Charleston County. Now, one thing I did want to just make you all aware of, and some of you know this, but back in May, we did, at the request of, I guess, the county, when they were looking at running initial models for traffic studies, we sent them a little bit more detailed breakdown on some of these projects that you see in green there. We did add some of them together because we're looking at it more corridor-wise versus individual projects because it gives some flexibility. But we know where the real issues are. I mean, I don't have to tell you, it's Maybank Highway, it's Bees Ferry, it's 17, it's Folly Road, I mean, Glen McConnell. So we know where the traffic pinch points are. So again, we did send this out. It's more of a reflection of what, again, was done here. This again shows what the funding breakdown was. And again, I want to be clear, this is not a metric that we are going to lock into, but it is a place to start the conversation, I think. So wanted to just show how it was broken down versus where the population for Charleston County resides. Now, when we're talking about what the dollar amounts might be for the 26 TST, I round up, and I've used here the $5.4 billion that the county had from the 24. I've added 600 million to it to get us to an even 6 billion. And the reason I did that is because I do think in the next 20 years, we have a good shot of getting at least $600 million from the state, given the fact that we just gave them back $420 million for 526. So that gave me a round number of 6 billion. I want to make this disclaimer though, because 5 minutes before I walked in here, I talked to Chairman Middleton. They've gotten updated numbers that he said are admittedly more conservative, that is lower than this, and even lower than the 5.4 billion. So whatever the number is, the number's going to be. I'm just using this as something to go off of because frankly, I couldn't change the PowerPoint in time. So I did want to really make that disclaimer very clear that this number will move around, but for the purposes of this exercise, I'm using 6 billion. If it's 4 billion, if it's 7 billion, if it's 5 billion, it'll be, you know, adjusted accordingly. Now, again, if you look back, if you see I have here on the road projects, the 2.35 billion, again, that tracks back to that general breakdown. That totals about a little under 2.4, right? And the point I'm trying to make here, if you did all 20 of those road projects and then made sure we had the requested funding for the LCRT and CARTA funding, that's right at half, or $3 billion, okay? Which then leaves $3 billion for, paving, bike ped, greenbelt, and other, okay? TST eligible expenditures. One suggestion that I have, and I've talked to Chairman Middleton about this, it would be a little bit complicated, but I think in an effort to be very transparent and detailed on where this funds would go, and actually, frankly, help sell it to residents across the region, is allowing for some customization of that remaining amount. Because Mount Pleasant, for example, might want more funding for Greenbelt than the city of Charleston. And we might want more infrastructure to protect our roadways from flooding than North Charleston wants. So if we can have some flexibility in that, that would allow us as members of council in each respective municipality to sell our constituents, not a one-size-fits-all, but really break it down into, again, more of a customized format, I think that would be very compelling to voters. So that's kind of my pitch. I want you all to just think about that. Again, it would require a complicated ballot where you have to define a lot of things and you'd be scrolling on the ballot. But I would make the argument, I don't think that's such a bad thing. I don't think asking people, giving people details on where their money's going is a negative. So again, the pro is, again, we can customize it. It's transparent, it's detailed, it's easier to sell to voters. Of course, the negative, the con would be it does reduce flexibility. If you want to move some money from one pot to another pot and you've defined it on the ballot, well, you're kind of restricted there. So I get that, but again, it's imperative that we get this thing passed. So I'm trying to figure out attractive ways to solicit voters. In terms of the breakdown on where the city might go, these are the road corridors that were outlined again previously and roughly equating with the same budget that had been previously provided. So it's keeping it relatively the same with a few additions. I put Haygood Avenue, which is the only road project on the peninsula. Everyone else is Johns Island, James Island, and West Ashley. But then we have, and then we would put in our pro rata share of the, actually a little bit above our pro rata share for Greenbelt, public transportation, the annual allocation. And then a key one here is our partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers for not just flooding on the peninsula, but I want to be really clear about this, flooding across the entire city. Because flooding is directly impacting our roadways. And this has been something that's been questioned a little bit as conversations about the TST get more and more refined. And I want to just bring you all the actual state language, the language from state statute on what is allowed in a TST funding. And you can see they're highlighted. They're including but not limited to drainage facilities relating to highways, roads, streets, bridges, and other transportation-related projects. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read. That's pretty clear to me. A road's not usable if it's underwater. I also went, if you start getting into the legal, I'm really playing lawyer now. What is the definition of a facility? I've got Webster's, and I've also got how Congress defines a facility. Right. And then I have reached out to the Attorney General's office, and they feel that there's a lot of discretion on the local governing body to how to define this. And he seemed to think it was logical to say, yeah, if you are putting infrastructure in to keep water off of roads, well, that's protecting roads from flooding, right? And And again, if you need some justification on it, just threw a few of those in here. These are all of largely state-owned roads that are underwater. And I've got another one that's downtown. And then this is the best one, Lockwood, where the harbor really just comes in. So to me, guys, this is something, it's a pretty bright line for me on the fact that we need to have the TST be eligible for these critical issues, especially given the fact that under this partnership with the Army Corps, and again, this is citywide, we're getting, for every $3 we're putting in, the federal government is giving us $6. So it's, I think, I guess they didn't like that point. Right. But again, I think it's fiscally responsible thing to do. So again, gentlemen, this is the general concept, looking at what roughly the city's pro rata share might be, understanding we might not get all of that. We might get a little bit more of that depending on what the region comes up with. But we need to start figuring out how to prioritize these and get into the weeds and get into the details, because the more organized and thoughtful and transparent we are about this to our voters, the more ready they're going to be, I think, to approve it. So that's my presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the mayor on preliminary thoughts and ideas about the TST? Yes, sir. Councilmember McBride.
No, I think it was good, Mayor. Really good thought put into it, and the flexibility aspect is, I think, important. The transparency aspect is crucial, and the breakdown makes sense to me. But my only comment to add to the population proportion is where the population growth has been as a factor of that as well, and where we know it will continue based on permitting data and that kind of stuff.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's a great point. And again, we needed a baseline to go off of, so that's all I used. But I mean, data will drive a lot of this. But also do need to be careful about data. I mean, it's what you put in as assumptions that can input that are going to input the affect the output, right? And Johns Island, just as we are well aware, is in dire need of funding for roads, given its growth corridor.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Gregory.
Yeah, as a part of the customization,
The potential customization.
potential,
Right.
which gives us a bit of flexibility. Would we be able to include streets like Rutledge, Gordon, especially a Rutledge, which is a main thoroughfare? Would that give us the ability to include something like that?
Theoretically, yes. The customization that I was assuming here, just for clarity though, was outside of the direct road improvements, like the widening or the regrading or something like that of one of those major corridors. So when you're talking about Rutledge, if it's repaving or restriping, that could actually come under the
It's a little more than that.
little more than it. So yeah, I mean, I think again, we know what is critical to our city, and we owe it to Charleston County to provide that information and that insight. And so yes, I think if Rutledge is something that warrants that kind of attention, then we need to let them know that.
Any other questions, comments? I just have a couple of quick ones. First off, thank you for getting this going. This is super important. I think all of us around this table understand that the future of this region is dependent on many things, not the least of which is the ability to fund infrastructure. And funding infrastructure will become much more difficult if we sunset a half-cent sales tax that we already have, and we give up the opportunity to collect billions of dollars. So I'm certainly hoping that everyone who's involved in the city will encourage everybody they know to get engaged, get involved, and get behind continuing on with the existing tax, which is what this referendum will be. It will not be a new tax. It's the continuation of an already existing tax. And the mayor, I think you and I have talked a little bit about this, but I think one of the things to present and think about as we go through this process and Councilmember Gregory touched on this a little bit, is the whole notion of corridors. I mean, transportation now isn't just a road, it's a corridor. And given what we're going to be talking about tonight at City Council with MUSC and the overlay district, that whole Calhoun, it's really a Calhoun-Lockwood corridor and includes Rutledge. Looking at that for opportunities for accessibility and mobility, with MUSC building a new cancer center, investing billions of dollars in the heart of the peninsula. Low Country Rapid Transit will be up and running in 2029. The Calhoun corridor certainly is something I think that we should look at as a recipient for the benefit of the TST and specifically moving water out of that roadway, right? I mean, if you try to go down Calhoun Street and make it to the space where they ultimately want to build the new cancer center, if you'd have done it 2 Fridays ago, you could not get there. So I think partnering with MUSC as we go through this process, partnering with the county and making sure we look at corridors and we capture those opportunities is really important. The other thing is I'd be remiss if I didn't make a mention of one of the things we might not have done such a great job of in the prior iterations of this half-cent sales tax is not just status quo ante, but thinking about the future and growth. Councilmember McBride talked about in terms of population, not only for roads, but for transit, right?
Yep.
And transit is something that we don't want to just sort of keep in place. We want it to be able to expand. So we got to make sure that we keep that in the conversation. Right?
No, you make a really good point, Mr. Chairman. And I think bears mentioning here, 2 things. One, the public has a responsibility to engage here. I mean, this is 20 years worth of transportation funding.
Right.
So it's really critical that we are open and transparent with our voters on this. We engage with them, we allow for public comment, but that they also do their homework because this is a big deal. I mean, number one complaint we get is traffic, and right behind that, it's flooding. So this is where the solution lies. And then the other one is, again, we're going to have to work very closely with other governments. As we've talked about, the county, this is a collaboration. This is not us against them. This is us working with the other cities. But we also have to look internally too. Our land use plans, our zoning, our entitlements. We need these priorities to help inform how and what we're going to zone and where we're going to direct our growth. And that ties to where we're going to put greenbelt funds to protect against development, where we're going to put public transportation, you name it. We have to look at this holistically. And this is an incredible opportunity to really change the region into a much more livable place, that transportation goes from being a headache and a nightmare to something that is a much more positive on your quality of life, right? So one other, we've caught a little bit of grief for slowing down the rezoning effort for the city, rewriting our zoning code. That was by design because of this, because we knew this potential was coming and we didn't want to set in motion a whole holistic rezoning of all of the city's properties until this was a little bit more defined. But now that it's here, we are going to need to roll up our sleeves and do our part as a city to make sure that what our efforts complement the transportation efforts and the public transportation efforts and direct those corridors on where growth is occurring and where we want to prevent it from occurring. So I'll get off my soapbox there.
That's all good. Councilmember Gregory, this is important discussion.
Yeah, follow up. Where would Calhoun West drainage project fall in this?
Calhoun corridor,
Yes,
right in the corridor.
because we're what, 250, 300 million already?
Probably.
Easy.
That could be something, I mean, again, to be determined on this, but again, if we can help leverage some of the work with the Army Corps, tidal and inland flooding, that could be pretty significant there. But so I mean, again, there are all kinds of possibilities here. We just need to be thoughtful and strategic about it. And know too, and I think this is important in fairness to the county, because every municipality is going to come up with a wish list, and there's only so much to go around. And again, we're going to have to prioritize and figure out what our primary objectives are. But again, if we can leverage money for a lot more money, federal dollars, then that should be, if not at the top of the list, pretty dang close.
And I think likely this committee will serve as a clearinghouse for those ideas and refining more of the lists that go together. So more to come on that.
Yeah, so what I'll conclude with, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is I'd like to have this committee be just that. And we probably are going to need, as I mentioned, at least one, probably two, maybe even more, depending on the chairman and the will of the committee, special meetings in the next 45 days or 40 days before, so that we can get our list, our corridor list and project list to the county in time for them to start running models.
Okay, any more questions, comments on this? Certainly a lot more to come. Really important topic and subject, and we will move it forward. Anything else? If not, on to our next. Next is our Target Zero resolution, request for approval. Mr. Wallace, I saw him here. What you got for us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in your packets, you have a resolution establishing Target Zero policy. So this is part of our Safe Streets and Roads for All grant action plan that we've been working on throughout this year. This is required. This is federally required as part of that action plan to be approved for funding in future implementation phases. We're currently finalizing the draft action plan. Should be ready next month to be presented to T&T committee for approval. And just to give you an idea, we intend to apply for roughly $13 million in safety projects next year, which would be mostly federally funded. It would be a 20% match, so it'd be about $2.5 million city funded.
Can you give an example of what type of safety projects we're talking about?
So it's more broad scale, kind of high benefit, lower cost projects, a lot of RFB projects, the flashing beacons, a lot of curb extensions, that kind of thing, a lot of signal upgrades, pedestrian signals, that kind
Stuff
of
we
thing.
can do now to
Yeah.
make things safer.
Yeah, that's the point of this grant,
Right.
is things that you can install quickly.
Right, great. And this needs adoption for policy purposes from this committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you
One-
for bringing this forward. Yes, sir. Councilman, go ahead.
So I'm 100%, 110% in support of this. How does this interface with SCDOT? Like if we want, I'll use the Riverland Maybank discussion as an example. Like we want to do something like what you're saying here.
Right.
But we still have to get SCDOT's approval. So how does that work?
So unsurprisingly, a lot of the high crash areas are SCDOT roadways because they're the higher speed roadways and the higher volume roadways. So we would have to get their approval for these projects, but most of the things that we've identified in this is stuff that are identified in, national countermeasure databases and things like that. So I would not imagine approval being difficult from DOT.
So basically is data informed and you just present the data, it's black and white. And there's no reason they should.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Especially if we bring money to them and they'll go ask them for money. That
Right.
Seems to get their attention. All right, we'll keep us up to date. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, traffic calming, Grand Bay Lane and Timberline Drive, both on Johns Island. Mr. Mathis, there you
Yes,
are.
sir. We've got a couple of items that you just mentioned up for traffic calming. Staff has reviewed these. The fire department has looked over these as well, and we recommend these for approval.
Can I get a motion?
Move for approval.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Quick comments.
Sure, of course.
Very, very happy about this, obviously. I want to point out that I want to give the neighborhood HOAs, thank them for their patience on the process that we have in place. That's very deliberative. I thank the T&T department for their due diligence to gather the data to justify these speed humps. And this is an example of anyone that wants speed humps around the city of Charleston, I'm sure it's valid. In this case, these are both examples of Maybank overflow. A lot of vehicles cutting through neighborhoods off of Maybank because Maybank's backed up, which is happening more and more on Johns Island. So I'm happy this is happening.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments? As typical, I asked this question at September 23rd. Where are we on our budget for traffic calming devices in September of 2025?
That is a great question, Councilmember.
Thank
And
you
I
very
brought,
much.
I brought my expert with me tonight.
Oh, we got
If
an
you'd like
expert,
to
we got an
respond.
expert witness.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Mr. Wallace, come on forward. A rare appearance. Please introduce yourself to the committee. This is a guy who works about harder than anybody out there on our streets. So,
Good afternoon, Thomas Sizell. And we roughly got about 95,000
left out of a budget of what, 140? Is that-
140, yes, sir.
All right, you've got some people out there who want speed humps, traffic calming, get them in. I will tell you all that District 8 is doing something that's very rare. We have a petition to take one away. We're actually giving one back to y'all. So grab it while it's hot.
Slightly used.
Right, slightly used. Right. All right. Any other questions, comments? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next to last. Approval of Code Enforcement Officer, Ms. Eliza Story.
Move for approval.
Anything we need to know? Is Ms. Story here?
Ms. Story is here. She has been with us for a little while now. We're just getting her approval to be a code enforcement officer. She does do parking ticket adjudication, so we need to make sure that she's a code enforcement officer.
All right. Well, welcome. Thank you. Welcome again for your newfound prosperity in the city. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Next is the added item, which is the financial participation agreement with the SCDOT for the Morrison Drive Median Safety Project. Mr. Somerville, is there anything you want to let the committee know before we vote on this, please?
Yes, this is basically as you know, the DOT's been doing the median project on Morrison Drive, and cities, I guess our input is to handle the landscaping, the irrigation, and installation of the median drainage. So that $245,680 covers that difference.
And we've already budgeted that.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion on this,
Move
please?
for approval.
Can I get a second? Is there any discussion, any questions? You all know which project this is, right? Okay.
I don't know if Jason Kronsberg is here, but I know his staff looked at all the, the plannings for the island, so I'm not exactly sure.
All right, any other questions, comments? If not, can I get a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Next is director's update. Anything, Mr. Mathis, for our general edification?
Yes, sir. I wanted to give you some quick updates on some things that we're working on internally and provide you some information on a request from the last meeting. Maybank Highway at Riverland Drive. We've been reaching out to the SCDOT to discuss with them some potential low-cost improvements at that intersection. We have not heard back from them yet, so we'll let Councilmember McBride know when we do.
Okay,
Secondly, wanted to let you know a little bit about the pedicabs and the bid updates. We've completed our pre-qualifying inspections. That was completed the week of August 25th. All 4 companies have complied with our requirements. And our next steps will be working with our legal department and procurement department to move forward with those requests for bids.
all right. Anything else?
Yes, sir. Just wanted to mention a couple of other projects that we have going on. We were talking a lot about traffic improvements, transportation improvements, and corridors. One of the ways that we can improve efficiency along corridors is using the timing of signals. And we've got a lot of signal timing projects that are going on right now. We just wanted to let you know about. In last year's budget, or for this year's budget, we were approved to look at Maybank Highway, Folly Road, Harborview Road, and the Herbert Fielding Connector, or SE 61 connector. Those are ongoing, should be finishing up here soon, and we'll have a report to this committee later this year. Another one that's going to begin this fall is Clements Ferry Road. That was also part of that budget. We should have something early next year to report back to the committee. We have completed some signal retiming on Daniel Island. We looked at that. And so we'll get that. We'll fit all these reports in to one meeting, hopefully. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about some funding that comes from outside the city of Charleston. The Chats has funded a signal timing improvement project for the Charleston Peninsula that is ongoing right now. They just started this week, I believe. So
Is
we
that
think,
actual retiming or is there studying it?
and so it's well, part of it is studying and part of it is reviewing and part of it is actually changing timing. So there's a lot that's going to be changing. They're going to take into consideration the all PED phases as part of this. The construction of those will come later, but they will have a plan for those once the DOT can get those constructed.
And the first all PED phase is Calhoun down by the medical University, right?
Yes, sir. That will be the first one implemented. There are 6 other locations, I believe, that will be across the peninsula.
Okay.
And then that, so just to give you an idea, that total amount of that signal improvement is $610,000 that the city is not having to pay for. So we appreciate that. And then as part of the Chat's carbon reduction program, we have future improvements coming to West Ashley, or future signal timing projects coming to West Ashley that will cover the entirety of West Ashley. Those will be ongoing over the next 2 years and hopefully be completed by 2027. We just recently got approval by the SCDOT to be the local public agency administrator. So we will be managing those projects in-house.
Okay, it's a lot of good news. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Mathis, Mr. Somerville, or anybody else? If not, unless there's anything else for the greater good, by acclamation, this committee is adjourned. Thank you all very much.